Okay, we're going to talk about the diaphragm and answer the questions: what's its topography, attachments, and openings? What is its role in respiration? And what is its innervation? Hello, everyone. My name is Dr. Morton, and I'm the noted anatomist. The word diaphragm is Greek for a partition, barrier, or defense in. There's that dome-shaped muscle, and it partitions the thoracic from the abdominal cavity. In this cadaveric photograph, there's the right hemidiaphragm and the left hemidiaphragm. And the right hemidiaphragm is a bit higher because of the liver on the upper right quadrant of the abdomen. In this chest x-ray, there is the two domes of the diaphragm, the right hemidiaphragm and the left hemidiaphragm. There's where the liver would be located, pushing up the right hemidiaphragm. And under the left, there's always that gastric bubble, which is a belch, waiting to happen. In surface anatomy, there's the approximate location of the diaphragm. And no matter how many times I've dissected and seen this, I always think that's lower. It's just below the nipple line is where that diaphragm is. Because the diaphragm is made of skeletal muscle, it has the following skeletal look as it attaches to skeleton. So from this inferior view, it attaches to the xiphoid process, the costal margins of ribs 7 through 12. So if we look at a coronal section, there we can see it attaching to those costal margins of the ribs. It also attaches to the lumbar vertebrae via the right crus and left crus. The word crus means legs because that's kind of what they look like. And all of the muscle fibers go centrally to the dense connective tissue central tendon. From an inferior view, there are these, look at all those muscle fibers coursing interior to that central tendon of the diaphragm. Okay? Like that. The diaphragm has the following openings that enables communication between thoracic and abdominal cavities. The Caval hiatus at the T8 vertebral level is for the inferior vena cava and right phrenic nerve. Esophageal hiatus at the T10 vertebral level for the esophagus and our anterior and posterior vagal trunks. And so there we see the lower esophageal sphincter, which communicates esophagus or connects esophagus to stomach. And when that herniates through the esophageal hiatus, it's called the hiatal hernia. And there's the diaphragm, and that's what a hiatal hernia with contrast looks like. Part of the stomach goes up through that opening into the thoracic cavity. It's obscure. You can see the big heart shadow. The aortic hiatus is at the T12 vertebral level. There's the aorta and the thoracic lymphatic duct. From a lateral view, there's the diaphragm, and at the T8 vertebral levels, the inferior vena cava, T10, the esophagus, and T12 is where the aorta communicates. Okay. The diaphragm is the primary muscle of respiration. So when inhalation occurs, the diaphragm contracts. This increases thoracic volume. It's an active process. Exhalation, the diaphragm relaxes. This reduces the thoracic volume. It's passive. Now, to help understand how that works, let's do a comparison. The diaphragm is like playing with a parachute. Remember doing this in elementary school where everyone goes, pull, and it gets flat, and then they go, everyone lift their hands up, and then say, pull, hands up. And so it makes a dome shape and then flat. Well, that's much like the diaphragm. When the diaphragm's relaxed, it's dome shaped. When the diaphragm contracts, it becomes flattened. Dome shaped, relaxed, contracts, it becomes flattened. So when the diaphragm contracts, do you see what happens to the lungs? They get bigger. When the diaphragm relaxes, the lungs get smaller. So when the diaphragm contracts, that's why air gets sucked in, because the diaphragm flattens. The intrathoracic pressure of -5 centimeters of water causes the lungs to follow, and they stretch, and that's what sucks air in. When it relaxes, the diaphragm becomes dome-shaped, and the lungs get smaller and forces air out. This is why it's called negative pressure ventilation. When the diaphragm contracts, it makes the intrapleural pressure become more negative, -5 to like -7, and that's what stretches the lungs and air comes in. Okay. Like that. All right. Diaphragm also helps expel urine and feces and vomit, and then also childbirth by increasing intra-abdominal pressure. The diaphragm is innervated by the phrenic nerve, and so it arises from the cervical plexus from C3, 4, and 5 spinal cord levels. We like to say C3, 4, and 5 keep the diaphragm alive. The phrenic nerve then descends ventral to the anterior scalene muscles and the lung of the hilum, innervates the diaphragm. And like I said, the diaphragm skeletal muscle. So phrenic nerve is somatic motor, meaning it's voluntary. So there it's phrenic nerve is descending in front of the scalene muscle and in front of the root of the lung and down to the hemidiaphragm. That blue line is the diaphragm relaxed, and then red, it's contracted. And notice that the phrenic nerves become dark yellow, which shows that an action potential spreading down it, okay, like that. But let's say now we injure the right phrenic nerve, like during surgery, it gets cut. Watch. Do you see now what happens? The right phrenic nerve cannot innervate that right hemidiaphragm. So the contraction of the healthy hemidiaphragm creates a negative pressure in the thoracic cavity that sucks the right hemidiaphragm up. This increases intra-abdominal pressure by the left hemidiaphragm contracting, and this helps to push up the denervated hemidiaphragm up. We call this upward movement is called paradoxical movement because it's the opposite of what the diaphragm normally does during inspiration and breathing. This is a chest x-ray of a patient preoperatively and then postoperatively. You see that? That left hemidiaphragm goes up. So this is a sniff test where the patient goes and they take an x-ray. And you see that the right hemidiaphragm contracts, but the left hemidiaphragm goes up in that paradoxical movement. And that, my friends, is the diaphragm in a nutshell.